Bus drivers are unique observers of humanity. Every week they see hundreds of faces pass through their doors, some alight with happiness, others heavy with sorrow. There are the perpetually rushed, their eyes fixed on an unseen finish line, and then there are those who appear utterly lost, adrift in their own thoughts. Among this constant flow, a special group emerges, the regulars. These are the familiar faces who board daily, their routines etched into the driver's memory, their journeys a comforting rhythm of the day. Tim Watson is one such bus driver. For years he has paid close attention to the ebb and flow of people on his route. He knows his regulars by sight, their preferred seats, their precise drop-off points, and the subtle cues of their daily schedules. Some have even become friends, their quick exchanges a small but meaningful part of his routine. "Take care," Tim would often say as they departed, or "enjoy your day." In return, they'd offer a warm, "Stay safe on the road, Tim." This comforting pattern held true day after day until one particular morning. That day, Tim was navigating his usual route, the bus humming smoothly, the morning unfolding as expected. Then, at a quiet stop, a man and a small boy boarded. Tim immediately registered them as unfamiliar. The man appeared to be in his mid-20s, his gaze distant, almost vacant. He guided the boy to a seat in the middle of the bus, his grip firm, as if restraining a restless animal. The little boy, clearly upset, began to cry almost immediately. Crying children were not an uncommon sight for Tim. Temper tantrums on a bus were a regular occurrence. Yet this cry was different. It wasn't the frustrated wail of a child denied a toy or a snack. This was a cry laced with evident fear, a raw, desperate sound that sent a chill down Tim's spine. The boy's eyes, wide and glistening, held a terror that no typical tantrum could explain, even from a child accompanied by a family member. Despite his professional focus on the road, Tim found his gaze drawn to the new passengers in his rearview mirror. The boy's sobs persisted, a mournful counterpoint to the bus's engine. The man leaned in, whispering urgently, his gestures suggesting he was trying to coax the boy to sleep or, at the very least, to silence him. It was unusual for Tim to dwell on any single passenger, but an insistent knot of unease tightened in his stomach. He couldn't quite place it, but something felt profoundly wrong. Then, as he glanced again, a detail clicked into place. Looking into the mirror, Tim suddenly understood the source of his unsettling gut feeling. He remembered the morning's newspaper, the headlines about missing persons. A 3-year-old boy reported missing from a library in San Francisco. A cold suspicion began to solidify in Tim's mind. As a father of 2, he knew the desperate ache of parental love, and his instincts screamed that this child might be the one the police were searching for. But he also knew he could be mistaken. He desperately tried to recall the other crucial details from the missing persons report. Thankfully, his memory cooperated. The missing 3-year-old was described as wearing a blue shirt, plaid shorts, and red Crocs. A wave of empathy washed over Tim as he imagined the boy's parents, frantic with worry, not knowing where their son was. He thought of his own children at home, the unbearable thought of one of them vanishing. Armed with the newspaper's details, Tim began to formulate a plan. He needed a closer look at the boy, a way to confirm his suspicion without alerting the man. Stopping the bus and confronting him was out of the question. He had other passengers to consider, and if this was indeed a kidnapping, he couldn't risk scaring the man off. He maintained his normal driving pace, resisting the urge to check his rearview mirror again. He noticed the man's eyes had become sharper, more alert, and he seemed increasingly impatient to get off the bus. Any moment the man might change his mind and bolt with the boy. The other passengers, absorbed in their own worlds, seemed oblivious. Tim knew time was running out. He focused on the road, forcing himself to breathe deeply, to calm his racing thoughts. Then, as if an answer had been dropped from above, a brilliant idea sparked. To make his actions appear utterly casual, Tim announced to the bus that a passenger had left a green backpack earlier. He explained that the owner was insistent about its return and that he needed to quickly check the bus before proceeding to the next stop. He even feigned a slight annoyance, muttering about the inconvenience. With a practiced ease, Tim stood and began his search. He politely asked all riders to check under their seats. As he approached the middle of the bus, where the man and the little boy sat, he finally got his clear view. The boy, now quieted by exhaustion, was indeed wearing a blue shirt, plaid shorts, and red Crocs, a perfect match for the missing child. At that moment, Tim's gut feeling transformed into absolute certainty. After his feigned search, Tim casually returned to his seat, his mind now racing to devise the next step. He knew he couldn't handle this alone. A better plan was needed. The man and the boy were seated in the middle, and the loud rumble of the engine would mask any soft sounds. Furthermore, they were both looking out the window, seemingly distracted. With trembling hands, Tim reached for his phone. He continued driving, maintaining his normal speed as he discreetly dialed 911. He spoke in a low, steady voice, explaining that he had a boy on his bus who matched the description of the missing child. The police on the other end listened intently, their instructions firm and clear. Tim absorbed every detail of their plan, a wave of nervousness threatening to overwhelm him, yet the fierce determination to save the boy made him fearless. They told him to continue to his next scheduled stop, assuring him that officers would be waiting. Once again, Tim subtly checked his rearview mirror. The suspected kidnapper seemed to have noticed nothing amiss. The missing boy was so close to being safe. As Tim pulled up to the next stop, 2 police officers swiftly moved to cover the rear of the bus, while several others positioned themselves at the front. One by one, they allowed the other passengers to exit. A few looked surprised by the sudden police presence, but no one dared to ask questions. All eyes were on the bus, waiting for the man and the boy. When the 2 stepped off, the officers moved in, prying the boy from the man's arms and arresting the suspect immediately. The alleged kidnapper made a few futile attempts to struggle, but the authorities were resolute, their focus solely on the child. The 3-year-old, as if understanding he was being rescued, instinctively snatched an officer's hand, a profound look of relief washing over his innocent face. Both were then taken to the police station for further investigation. It turned out the parents had already been informed of the possible lead. When the police made the call from the station, the relief on the other end was immense. The parents were on their way to reunite with their son in no time. Tim could only imagine the overwhelming joy they would feel, knowing their child was safe and sound. Naturally, the boy's parents and the police officers were profoundly grateful and incredibly proud of Tim's actions. If not for his exceptional memory, strong instinct, and unwavering alertness, who could have known where the innocent boy might have ended up? The story was undeniably worth sharing, and before Tim knew it, he was an instant local celebrity. When interviewed by news stations, the courageous driver simply stated, "I feel I just did what any father would do." Tim Watson's story serves as a powerful reminder. If you feel something in your gut, you have to go with it. Hesitation, he warns, can lead to a lifetime of regrets.